Welcome back to another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast with your hosts, Chris Harris and myself, John Farquhar. Today, we've got Mike from JKC Trucking, based out of Chicago, Illinois. They're a specialized transport company transporting refrigerated goods, perishable goods, and whatnot. So let's see what Mike's got to tell us and what's going on in the industry down in his neck of the wood.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Mike, welcome. How are you doing in Chicago?
John, Chris, thank you for having me on your show. Well, I'm doing great here in Chicago. How you guys doing?
It's flipping snowing again here. We're in Southern Ontario.
It's blowing and snowing outside like crazy right now. So yeah, I'm looking for green grass to get my motorcycle out. I've had enough.
I'm ready for spring also.
Yep. No doubt.
I want to go hit that stupid white ball. Damn.
Little golf. That'll help.
Well, do we still call it golf? I thought it was another four-letter word that we can't say.
Yeah, something else. We'll deal with that later.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the show. Can you start us off first by telling us a little bit about you and JKC?
Yeah, so JKC, we specialize in frozen refrigerated LTL. My father started the company, so my father and I run the company. We specialize going with LTL product from the Midwest to the entire West Coast and back. We're running to Florida. Florida's, for now, we're running only truckloads, but we're going to be opening a LTL dock. And so that's kind of where we are a private owned carrier, all company drivers, all company trucks. We are the biggest refrigerated carrier out of Chicago and the second biggest LTL frozen refrigerated carrier in the U.S.
Oh, how big a fleet are you?
You know what? A little bit over 200 trucks, but it's pre-COVID. We were approaching 300.
Oh, okay.
Is that, sorry, pre-COVID, you said?
Yes. Well, when the times were still good, yeah. When for the world it shut down, and when crazy, we're only supposed to be shut down for 2 weeks, but it was only 2.5 years. Who's counting?
Yes.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, there was a 2 in it.
That's right.
I know. I mean, I don't know if this is our last pandemic. I would like to think so, but I kind of doubt it. Hopefully we've all learned a lot about how to handle it. And hopefully in the future, if it ever comes back, they treat truck drivers with a little more respect than what they did, especially at the beginning of that nonsense. Or guys couldn't even go ahead.
I agree. Yeah, no. It was bad. When the pandemic hit, everybody assumed that the truck drivers are the main carriers of the COVID virus. And, God forbid somebody, showed up from New York or for one of these hotspots, they were treated like very unfairly, like a leopard. I hated when these warehouses wouldn't even allow the drivers to bring in their paperwork. You would have to scan it, send it to them, and then you'd call them. They give you a door. And then when everything was over, they would close your doors and they would email you the signed paperwork. I was like, that's completely unfair to drivers. I'm like, these people are essential workers paying you. What are you guys doing to these guys? Yeah. And then
exactly. So, it was a very challenging time for everybody. So it's kind of made it not that enjoyable during that time period. But so with that, what are you seeing today as some of the biggest issues that we're facing? Now we're post-pandemic. What's affecting you guys the most down in the U.S.?
So just the skyrocketing costs of everything, cargo insurance, liability insurance, diesel fuel is ridiculously, I'm looking, I think, 2022 compared to 2021, we paid over, $5 million more in diesel costs. It's ridiculous. I mean, our margins are down. We got to increase driver pay. Probably something happened in Canada. And then just the cost of goods just went up so much. For the longest time, we're waiting for air filters for the refrigeration units, because here in the U.S. we could buy a Carrier or Thermo King, and both are domestically made. But I think Thermo Kings are made in Puerto Rico, if you consider that the U.S. But all the air filters for these refrigeration units, the unit that sits on the front of the trailer that cools the load, they're all made in Japan. So when the world shut down, that shut down. And then when they started shipping it was coming through the ports of Los Angeles, which was a completely, there was a complete gridlock. So it just took for a long time. We couldn't get water pumps, so it's crazy because we produce a lot of things here in the US, food wise and trucks, a lot of things too, but we get a lot of components from, around the world. And, one of the things I hope we learn from this pandemic is that, we can't rely on these goods come from around the world, especially if there's like a pandemic or a war or whatever. We need to find, we need to rely on people like yourselves, the U.S. should be buying stuff from Canada, Mexico, not from, around the world. So when the world shuts down, that we could, continue doing business.
Yeah, we got lots of good land opportunities to travel back and forth without having to worry about shipments overseas.
Yeah, I so much of everything I agree with. I think there should be better cooperation between the 2 or 3 countries, and even getting into South and Central America. I mean, at least they're in the same, you can still truck it from Colombia, I think. I don't know. I don't know how many people would want to, but that's a long haul. But, I mean, they must manufacture a lot of things down there as well. And you're right. We shut down. How is the part situation now, whether it's for reefers, trailers, tractors?
It's getting better. It has, I don't think it's like pre-COVID, back to pre-COVID. It's getting better. We're able to get stuff. The biggest issue that we couldn't do through COVID that really was a problem is, they stopped truck production. We couldn't buy new trucks, and then the new trucks they were producing were ridiculously overpriced. We couldn't get trailers for a very long time. First time I got price for trailers was the end of 2022, and the price was astronomical. It only went up 32%. And I was like, hey, guys, I would love to buy them, but I cannot afford to, 32%. I understand that, things gone up. Everybody was around 10, 15, depending what you're buying. I understand we got to pay more because it just costs more. But 32%, I was like, I can't do that. What am I supposed to do? Call my customers and say, hey, look, I'm just going to increase your rates by 32% because my trailer's cost has gone up. My customers would give me a bunch of colorful words and hang up on me and use somebody else.
Well, and the other part of that, of course, how many repairs and what maintenance can you do instead of buying that new trailer that costs 32% more? Yeah. You could spend an awful lot of money on maintenance and rebuilding reefers. I mean, I'm not a reefer guy by any means, but I would imagine that money would go a long way.
It depends, sometimes with these units, when they get so tired, they're just, it's better off to just, retire them. It's just like an old car, Right. Actually, this thing, I think, takes more abuse because it's, nonstop jumping up, down, running through, we're running through elevation here, through Death Valley, 130 degrees, the desert. It's torture. Some days it boggles my mind how some of my trucks get there and back.
Yeah, you got a lot of environments to run through.
Yes. And the elevation is the biggest issue that you're going through because, all this equipment's made for, let's say, the Chicagoland level, but as soon as you get up in the mountains, everything changes. Fuel consumption, everything.
Exactly. So how are you finding it with drivers, trying to get drivers? Like how's the turnover? We all hear in the media that it's very high turnover in the US and whatnot. So what are you seeing from your perspective?
It is a high turnover, and we were very short on drivers through the pandemic all the way till probably the end of 2022. Because of COVID happened, we increased our driver pay twice. But then when fuel was skyrocketing and the volumes were coming down, especially end of 2022, because with inflation, well, now we have something called volume volatility. So the good people are going to the store. They can't afford all these goods because they're so expensive. So the American people had to change their diets. I'm positive the same thing in Canada, all around the world. They had to change their diets, you know what I mean, with everything going up in the price. So, you know, these volumes were not there anymore, and it went down. And when volumes go down, the price that the shippers pay goes down also. I mean, especially if we hold a lot of produce and the produce is mostly off that market rate. So that really, you know, kicks us in the pants, you know. To give you an example, when we shut down for COVID, half of our business is retail. That goes to the grocery stores. Another half is food service. And, you know, when they shut down all the casinos, all the trucks that ran to Vegas, all the convention centers and all the hotels, we lost 50% of our business, you know. And the real sad part is all these shippers, well, not all of them, but a lot of them went to the market and went to the lowest bidder. I remember when it was they were paying almost like nothing. It was Easter. And I mean, look what they were paying me. And, you know, I have a lot of overhead because, you know, I have a lot of trucks working for me. So I was like, you know, it's just cheaper to park these trucks and wait for a better day. And that's what we did.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and it kind of leads us into a different topic a little bit, but what can carriers do long-term to build profitable relationships with shippers?
With shippers, I mean, the biggest issue I'm seeing with carriers are, you know, I mean, they come in and they come in with these low rates and they over promise and underperform. And I mean, one of the rules that we do is, you know, I mean, we tell the customer, even if it's bad news, you know, I mean, we tell them the truth, and we try to, you know, explain to them, hey, listen, we need a little bit more. Our fuel's going up. This is going up. Insurance costs are crazy. I mean, just to give you an idea, you guys are in the insurance business, right? So for me to buy $1 million of liability insurance, I have to pay like $1.2 million for that liability insurance. It's crazy. It's bad. It's bad. You know what I mean? I call this the dark times in the trucking industry. There's a recession right on the verge. You know, I mean, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2008, you mean when the market crashed, consumption here in the U.S. dropped 30%. It was horrible.
I actually just read an article the other day that was kind of questioning, we're going to repeat 2008? You know, housing values have plummeted again and stuff like that. So, I was going to comment there just to say, you know, you've got shippers that are wanting low rates, but high expectations, unfortunately. So, you know. Well, yeah.
And one of the things, you know, I mean, that we've done, you have to build a relationship with the shipper. You know what I mean? It's like, how's this? I mean, the shippers that dropped me during COVID, you know what I mean? I wasn't running back to help them. I mean, I really, you know, rely on the customers that said, hey, listen, you need help? I'll help you. Yeah. And, I mean, we lost a handful, but, you know, being in business, it's a relationship. And you gotta, you know, how's this? It's not great days every day, but I mean, just, you know, continue going on. And how about this? You help them, they help you. And that's how you make some money.
I think everybody, I don't know about you, Mike. You're talking to two Canadians today, but I've become a lot more aware of what I'm buying and where it came from. You know, so I try to buy Canadian first. If I can't buy Canadian, now I'm going to the U.S. I'm trying to buy U.S. as my next choice before I go overseas, because I'd rather keep North America here working.
Yes.
Unfortunately, than maybe somebody from overseas at a different country.
I agree. And I have the same philosophy. I will pay more for a domestic product than something, you know what I mean, from overseas. Because, you know, I mean, houses, that it's cheaper. It's, you know, I mean, houses, you pay what you get for. That was my motto. So houses, it's cheaper for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. How are you trying to attract new business, you know, new business partners and whatnot? And And what would you say to somebody else that's maybe in the transportation industry that they could do different? Because again, we want to try and make it a good industry. We don't want everybody fighting it with each other. I always like to say, you can't have it all anyway. So why don't we work together to make it good and profitable for everybody? So what is it you guys are doing differently or working at to try and attract new business partners?
Well, so what we do is we were always looking for long-term partners. You know what I mean? We're working directly with the shippers and the manufacturers. We try to stay away from brokers. We do use some brokers, but how about this? We're doing all the heavy lifting. My father always told me when he was teaching me sales, he goes, "It's our job to take all the freight away from the brokers because we do it anyways." So that's one of the things you have to do is build a relationship. When COVID happened, we had no work, and then when they started opening back up, it was a roller coaster. As soon as you see a uptick, it went down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You mean we couldn't handle the capacity. We were saying no to certain lanes because we didn't have the drivers. And then now is the first time that the volumes are dropping. Thankfully, we're in the LTL business because the LTL is always usually steady. The first carriers that get really hit during bad times are, the dry carriers and the truckload carriers. So there's some pushing, but it started to affect. And then what we're doing to continue doing business, we do LTL to the whole West Coast, and we are trying to start doing LTL to the Southeast. What we've seen is a big shift of people in America. California was a very heavy state. Make a lot of people move to Arizona, Texas. My loads have, jumped like 25% to Texas, Arizona, and then Florida. And so the masses of populations have moved out of these states. There's been a big shift that I've seen. Some people have moved back, but it's holding. There's a lot more people in Texas, Arizona, and Florida. Though I guess the whole East Coast at one point moved to Florida. That's where
I was going to say. I wonder if it's old guys like us, Chris. We're going to those warmer climates and get away from this bloody snow.
Hey, Johnny, if I could afford to buy foreign health insurance, I'd be in the United States. But being a Canadian, that damn health insurance down there is a little, because I never paid into the American system, Mike. Of course, they have to charge foreigners what it really costs. And
exactly.
It's expensive.
It is. It is.
Oh, God. So how has the LTL business changed post-COVID? Because I'm thinking prior to COVID, how I picture LTL is the driver getting in the back of the trailer and doing a lot of the offloading, whether it's skids and stuff themselves. Is that still happening, or are they, I don't want to say barred, but discouraged from going on the loading docks now?
Well, they always say, through COVID, the drivers were not allowed on the dock, and now they're starting to let them back in. And they always say that is always an option for the driver to unload. But a lot of places we deliver, they don't want the drivers, like at Costco, will not let the driver on the dock, but they will unload the product, but they're kind of picky. If there's a pallet leaning or a broken pallet, they'll like reject the whole load or reject the whole pallet. I'm like, come on, guys, man, take the stop. So I'll have to go back and fix it. But what we have here in the U.S., I don't know if you guys have it in Canada, but we have these things called lumpers. And it's a third party, you know what I mean? Like, for example,
quite well.
I'm only upset that I didn't think of it first. But it's a third party company that comes in on a dock, and let's say they'll go to a big food distributor, and they unload the product, and they say they unload the product, but at the same time they're like segregating the pallet, they're moving on different pallets, and they're doing their ties and highs. And then when that's all done, the receiver comes and signs the paperwork and drags it into the warehouse. So a lot of drivers are not doing this. There's a couple places that we deliver that they will request to bring the product to the back of the trailer because for liability reasons, they don't want to step on the trailer. And there's, those places that we go to, we provide electric handshakes. So they just, bring it to the back of the trailer. Here's your stuff, grab it. But yeah, it's changed a lot. Back when my father started, wherever you got to shipper or receiver, they were happy to see you there. You were late, no big deal. Thank you for bringing my product. And now it's they've made it a business with this lumping. If you're so much late, you have to reschedule. And if you reschedule, they charge you a rescheduling fee, or if you're late, they charge you a late fee, and both coincidentally are the same price. Oh my, I'm like, come on. So when we were in these situations, we're like, listen, we tell the customers, listen, we have the guaranteed shipment, but you just chose the regular shipment. We're doing our best because how's this? The longer we hold on to the product, the more it costs us money. You know what I mean? So we're trying to unload this product to these shippers, but these warehouses not making it easy because they'll have these weird hours that they only receive from like midnight to 4 a.m. And sometimes we're zigzagging all over cities trying to deliver this product because those are the appointments we got.
Well, and I was going to say, you run into, they want to charge you for being late or issues on timeliness. Yet when they hold you up for a couple hours, I'm sure they're really not interested in paying your demurrage charges.
No, I agree. And it's not fair. So some places, you know what I mean, will only let you be half hour late. Some places have extended to hour and a half. We also have a warehouse here. We'll do it for a couple hours. You know what I mean? You call us and say, hey, listen, I'm running late. We understand. But some places just turn into a business, pay me and go away. So now it's great because we're paying sometimes for unloading, and then we're paying for, but they allow you a half hour to be late, right? That's your slide rule, but they have 2 hours to unload the truck before detention time kicks in. Yeah. I'm like, that doesn't work. That's not fair.
Exactly.
How are you finding detention time? Are you able to get it at the moment, or
people are paying? Well, how about this? It's like this. It's either paid detention time and you have to reimburse me for it because it's coming out of my pocket. So I'm working as almost like a bank. You're gonna pay me for detention time, or we're not gonna go there. And then there's even warehouses that, through COVID, we had a blacklist because it was ridiculous. We have one pallet to unload, and we're sitting there 12 hours to deliver, or vice versa, pick up, 2 pallets for 12 hours. I'm like, listen, my driver's paid by the hour and he could stay there till the time, but even he's upset, saying, listen, come on, man, this is crazy.
Well, you own the company, so you understand when I say you bought a tractor, you bought a trailer, you put fuel in it all, and your purpose of buying it was to get a return on your investment. And when it's sitting there in a bloody parking lot for 12 hours, there is no return on your investment. And you can't go on being in business with a negative return on investment.
Hey, time is money in trucking business. And that's a fact. You know what I mean? The more you sit around, you'd wish you could move around faster to save money because, that guy's idling there. The truck's not making money. My biggest, issue with this is when the guy's sitting there, he's still on duty. The guy can't even go into off duty. Well, he could go on off duty, not driving, but his hours are his clock is running. You know what I mean? A lot of these drivers, I've done this myself. I take a little nap. I relax. Have some lunch. You know what I mean? So that time should be truly like off duty, but I hear the regs in Canada are even 10 times worse than here in the US. And it doesn't work. It like, how's this? That's not fair. You know what I mean? The guy is, watching the clock go by, praying for the ship to unload him so he can get to this next place or, get to a truck stop and get some food, whatever.
It just builds up anxiety, stress. And for a driver that's paid by the mile, the next thing you know, I'm mashing the gas trying to get where I got to go next, and now you're putting yourself in a risky situation. You're jeopardizing your motoring skills and what you're doing with the public. It's just unneeded. if everybody would work together,
I agree. And I've been saying it, since the pandemic, these shippers need to be more elastic, with these receiving hours. It's if they want to, take in more product, but a lot of the issues that we found out is that, a lot of these warehouses, just like every other business across the spectrum, they didn't have the employees to do it. My favorite is, it happened multiple times. We would have an appointment scheduled. My driver would get there, hand in his paperwork, and they hand it right back to him and be like, "Hey, I know you had an appointment, but we're not receiving today." And we've traveled 1,800 miles away, so it's not like we could just, bring it right back to our terminal and put it in storage.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
and if this is a perishable product, the life of the product's diminishing as it sits on your trailer.
Correct.
If it's frozen, you're paying the extra cost of keeping it frozen. But if it's perishable, it's dying.
Yeah, if it's produce is perishable, even if it's cheese product, And then when you take the product, these receivers, they need so much shelf life to take it, because I get product reject all the time. They say, "Look, it doesn't have enough shelf life. We're not taking this product." Because it has to, stay on the shelf so long so the consumers could, buy it and consume it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that's not always an insurable loss either.
No.
So,
Exactly.
Mike, as we head towards the end of this, what else should we know about either you personally, Mike, or JKC? For instance, are you guys hiring at the moment? If I was in the Chicago area?
Yes, sir. We're always looking for good drivers. We're hiring drivers with experience. Lately we've been trying to hire like a lot of women, to bring a lot of women into the trucking industry, because some of my best drivers are women drivers because of safety and they're less aggressive than men. I've also been part of something called Travel Drivers that me and two other people started, that we are taking Native Americans from North Dakota, paying for their training, and then training them up to be truck drivers. And pretty soon we're going to be on our third driver. It just started. So, but we're trying to get anybody and everybody into the seats, because, in the near future, I'm sure you guys have the same problem in Canada. A lot of people didn't notice that, the truck drivers that are driving these trucks, they're older, it's like
very much so.
30%.
Yes.
Yeah. 30% is like over 45. And I think 15% is over 55. So when these people retire, I know there's new blood coming in, but there's going to be like a big gap. So we need to do some things, and their population is only growing every year. So
yes.
And you said you're hiring truck drivers. How about some of the other positions, such as mechanics, logistics, dispatch?
I'm always looking for mechanics, dispatch, road service. If you want to anything to do with trucks, reefer technicians, I'm always looking for good people.
Yep. Yeah. How are you finding that task, in comparison with how hard it is to find good drivers? How are you finding it, trying to find other people for other positions within your organization?
It's hard, because anybody that has any experience wants a lot of money, or usually over what the market price is. And because of everything has been so bad, all the trucking companies not only been fighting for the same drivers, we're fighting for the same employees. And the mechanics. The mechanics is also, a source that you don't have. So what we've been doing is hiring young guys for dispatch, and we've been training them, to learn the skill, and also with mechanics. But the problem is when you train these people, sometimes they feel that they know more than you, and then they move on before we even finish the training. But one day at a time.
Yes, I can imagine.
I tell everybody, the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing that I don't know if you've ever heard of Kelly Anderson. He's out of the Midwest down in the States. He's a recruiting specialist. He's got a lot of knowledge, and I haven't seen Kelly in a number of years. But one of the things that he used to do is he used to send a letter out to a good driver that left their company. And he tried to time the letter so that it arrived at that driver's house about 2 paychecks into the new career. And he said basically that they've left now and they realize that it's not greener on the other side. And so they get this letter saying, hey, come on back.
That's a great idea. You know what I mean? And yeah, I've had drivers, circulate back, go around, and they come back. And it's like, well, how's this? Well, what happened? You know what I mean? I'm supposed to be better over there, somewhere stubborn than just, deal with what I have to do. But yeah,
I remember hearing of one company that would actually send flowers. So if the driver was male, they would send their wife or spouse or girlfriend flowers on their birthday or anniversary, particularly when the driver was away, just to kind of show that they appreciate the support they're getting from there. But it turned around and helped them in their retention program, because the wives and the girlfriends would support the driver to say, oh, you're not leaving there. No, those guys appreciate you. I get flowers. We get safety bonuses. No, you're not leaving there. You're going to stay right where you are because they appreciate us. So those little things that maybe didn't go to the driver but went to their spouse really helped pay out, because now you got a cheerleader.
That's a great idea. I might use that. That's pretty solid.
Go for it.
Hey, Mike from JKC Trucking in Chicago. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for the support.
Hey, that's it for this week. Thanks, Mike from JKC Trucking out of Chicago, for coming on the show this week. Appreciate you and your time very much. John Farquhar and I would like to say thanks. If you're getting value, please click like and subscribe. And as always, leave us a comment. And if you want to reach out to Mike, I've put his contact info in the show notes down below. Once again, thanks. This has been the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.